Last night, Florentino Pérez, the 79-year-old president of Real Madrid, a man whose actual job is to own a football club, not coach one, walked into his team's dressing room after they got knocked out of the Champions League by Bayern and informed his players that one trophyless season is a failure and two is, quote, intolerable. Which is an interesting word choice from a guy who has been in charge of the institutional decisions at Real Madrid for most of the last 2 decades. If the season is intolerable, I have some follow-up questions about who was tolerating what and for how long and with which budget. But Perez didn't take questions, he gave a speech. Because at Real, the president gives speeches and the manager watches from the hallway, apparently. And this is the detail. Reports from Turkish press say Arda Güler, the 20-year-old Turkish kid who had just scored 2 goals from outside the box against Bayern, great, had been quietly ushered out of the dressing room before Perez arrived, like a child being led away from Christmas dinner before, I don't know, grandpa or the uncle gets political. I don't know who made that call, but I know what it means. You don't protect a player from a speech he needs to hear, right? You protect him from a speech he shouldn't have to hear. So someone at Real decided this 20-year-old kid who was the only positive thing about their night needed shielding from a 79-year-old owner's feedback. Everyone involved in that decision knows exactly what that says about the feedback. Meanwhile, a few meters away in a dressing room that most likely smelled worse, but probably has been run considerably better. Vincent Kompany, a guy who was somewhere between Bayern's 4th and 27th choice for the job as a coach, who had just been relegated with Burnley before he was hired. He has quietly built the best football team in Europe and more impressively, made Bayern Munich likeable. I need you to sit with this for just a second. Bayern Munich, likeable. If I say that in my native tongue in German, Bayern München, sympathisch, it sounds like a grammatical error. It's like saying Comcast customer service. The words they technically form a sentence, but the meaning short circuits. It's like that does not fit together. Bayern Munich, likeable, with attractive football. Oh my god. So hey, I'm Sasha, 20 years coaching team sports. I'm based in Bangkok, watching this all unfold while the rest of you sleep usually, because I'm in Bangkok. This is TAKTIK, the show where we watch sport the way a coach watches it, not the way commentators describe it. And today, what the dressing room told us, what Bayern are doing that everyone else should be copying. Fight sport lawsuit from Singapore that's running exactly the same play as Madrid, and the FIVB design that volleyball should be more like the game you play at your rec center. Let's go. All right, let's start with the recap, right? So Champions League quarterfinals, second legs. We all watch the matches, right? But all the matches, 4 matches, one big story. So let me hit them real fast because I know you all watched it. Bayern 4, Real 3, 6-4 on aggregate, right? Okay, cool. Bayern through to the semis, great. Against PSG, gonna be interesting. And honestly, that match, Bayern Real, what a football match, right? Arda Güler with the shot from distance after Manuel Neuer, showed that he's 40. After last week's game, we all like, oh my god, he should play national team again. And now it's like, hey, he's old and makes mistakes and so on. But he's 40. He starts in the Champions League because nobody had the conversation with him yet, right? So and he spilled a ball a Sunday league keeper would have held, right? Let's be honest. I mean, first the pass, of course, but then also like, I mean, that free kick was nice, but a good goalie saves it. Hmm? So 2 goals from the outside the box for Real, which apparently puts Güler into the list with Ronaldo and Roberto Carlos. Sure, sure. Great company for a 20-year-old. But yeah, especially for a kid that, who apparently, according to the owner, can't handle a pep talk afterwards, right? But okay, Bayern were 3-2 up. Camavinga did Camavinga things, and well, got sent off for a second yellow, right? I'm hesitating because I don't want to use the word stupid in my first podcast episode for this pod, but then again, I mean, yeah, you don't have to give it, but let's be honest, it was not smart, right? So, anyway, Luis Diaz tied it up with his great goal, and then at the end, it was of course Michael Olise who did not run to the corner flags like Thierry Henry wanted him to, but then actually um, made it happen with a great goal for the 4-3 in the end. And then fear unfolded, right? I mean, Jude Bellingham doing Bellingham things, of course, chasing the referee like a 14-year-old in a house league. Who else did we have? Danny Carvajal, of course, blamed the official for the elimination. The manager called the red card absurd. Vinicius Junior, I mean, of course, he had things to say and gestures to do and to make. The referee's name everywhere now, Slatko Vinčić, was I'm saying the name because I assume that his IG has been rough, and I hope he didn't open his DMs. Because as you know, Real is historically very, very good at losing. Um, and you can't spell Real without dignity. But hey, best thing about having to admit that Bayern is now actually likable is probably that Real is out. So hey, 2 fingers in the air. The other games, PSG 2 and Liverpool 0, right? 4-0 on aggregate, Liverpool out. No drama, no controversy, just thoroughly better. PSG now play Bayern in the semi, which is gonna be fun. Final four includes a team that and I'm laughing because like, no, I shouldn't be laughing because I'm thinking about the World Cup right now, so I should not be laughing. I'm sad that Florian Wirtz isn't doing well at Liverpool as a German, of course, but I mean, come on. Anyways, we will now have Bayern play PSG, and the thing is, goals gonna be flooding here, right? We know that already. If you're a defender, you might just want to get a calf strain right now, just to not have to be in the middle of that afterwards. Then we had another great game between Arsenal and Sporting. Arsenal nil, Sporting nil. Arsenal threw on 1-0 on aggregate from the first leg. Yeah, it's a grind, right? Not pretty, not entertaining, but watching the rest of this bracket, Arsenal are the only team left who appear to believe that defending is a legal activity. So hey, congratulations, right? And I think, as far as I'm concerned, the only undefeated team in the Champions League right now. Barcelona, Atletico. Barca won 2-1, but Atletico won the first leg, so Atletico is through. Yeah, congratulations again, Barca. Also, just like Real, great at losing. The coach though, Simeone, right? I just can't. I can't. Oh, I'm always for the underdog, but I can't stand the guy. How he's celebrating the red card of the opponent and things like this. Crazy. Anyways, semifinals: Bayern, PSG, Arsenal, Atletico, or Atleti, as we started to say for the last 2 years or so, apparently. So let's see where this goes. Finally, the Champions League is fun. The thing though, yeah, and now that we're done with the recap, last night wasn't just about football matches, or 2 nights ago. It was about like different answers to the question that every coach, every person who runs anything has to answer. What do you do with the people who work for you? And that leads me to what happened at Real. And here's some quick facts as reported by Diario Sport, Goal, and everyone else in the business of reporting these things. So what we said in the intro, right after the match, Pérez went to the dressing room. He told the players, quote, "1 trophyless season at Real Madrid is a failure. 2 is unacceptable." He said he appreciated their effort, but the season had been, quote, "a true disappointment for everyone." He said, and I love this one quote, "Playing for Real Madrid is a privilege with great responsibility. Many of you have not lived up to it." So it's a full speech essentially about how the players are insufficient for the badge. And then, as I said up top, they made sure Güler wasn't there to hear it, which I think is the most revealing detail in the entire story. Because it means someone somewhere in that building understood exactly how that speech was going to land. They just couldn't do anything about the fact that it was happening. So now, what does a coach hear in this, right? Well, I hear 3 things. First, if the president is the emotional voice in the dressing room after a loss, you don't have a coaching structure. That might be why Alonso is gone. You have a political structure in a tracksuit. The dressing room after a match belongs to the manager. Always. That's not tradition. That's a load-bearing pillar of how teams work. When the owner walks in uninvited, he's not motivating the team. He's demonstrating in front of everyone that the manager is not actually in charge. Which means the next time the manager tries to, discipline a player, every player in the room knows the manager can be overruled by a phone call. Yeah, good luck coaching that squad in May when it matters. Like, not for Real anymore, but generally speaking. Yeah, Arbeloa told the press, the second thing I hear, he hadn't spoken to Pérez after the match. Then Pérez went and spoke to his players anyway. Huh? Yeah, that's not a functioning chain of command. That's 2 grown men who technically share a building and one of them has decided not to use the door. And third, when you have to protect a 20-year-old from your president's speech, the speech is the problem, not the 20-year-old. You don't hide players from things they need to hear. You hide them from things that would damage their development, which means the organization itself knows at the operational who ushers who where level that the speech was damaging. They knew it. They just didn't stop it because the person giving it was the guy who signs the paychecks. Yeah, Real Madrid is a club where the president's ego is the load-bearing architecture. When the building shakes, Pérez comes downstairs to yell at the foundation for not being strong enough. And that's not coaching. That's not leadership. That's blaming with a good publicist. And as general rule in every sport and every organization I've ever been in, blaming doesn't win anything. It just keeps the blamer's job safe for another cycle. And that brings me to the opposite of all of that. And what happened at Bayern? As a quick context for the non-Germans, Bayern Munich is the Man City of Germany. It's the Man United and Man City of Germany. Yeah, so they're still good. But they like what Man United used to be and what Man City was not too long ago and still kinda is. Except Germans have a word for it. The word Rekordmeister, record champion, okay, which is kind of like the literal translation, but kind of means like the team that keeps winning and we're really tired of it. Yeah, they buy the best player from your favorite club every summer. They have more money than everybody else. For most of the last 30 years, supporting Bayern Munich was, to most Germans, the football equivalent of rooting for the house and casino. Now, luckily, for the last 6, 7, 8 years, we have RB Leipzig there that we can hate on, so it's easier to like Bayern Munich. But historically, they played accordingly to this cliche, ugly, ruthless 1-0 wins. They call it FC Hollywood, because there was always drama in the locker room. Like all the superstars are there, drama all the time. Yellow press call it FC Hollywood. A whole vibe that was simultaneously dominant and deeply unpleasant. Effective, admired, unloved. And now enter Vincent Kompany, a former Man City captain. Sure, he got the Bayern job after Xabi Alonso said, no, I'm going to Real. That worked out well. Julian Nagelsmann said no. Ralf Rangnick said no, and so on. And Kompany had, and I cannot stress it enough, just been relegated with Burnley. Bayern hired him anyway. Every German football journalist wrote a column titled, well, some variation of "Have they lost their minds?" I remember reading about like I don't know 5 or 6 of these columns. They were not optimistic, and I was kind of happy about it. 18 months later, Bayern is on whatever. They just crushed the 100 goal mark in the Bundesliga. I don't know 100, 200, 3, whatever they have now. Yeah, they have lots of the all-time records. The Champions League semifinals. Harry Kane is, for the first time in his career, I think, visibly enjoying football. Michael Olise is giving interviews where he passes credit to his teammates like a contagious disease he's trying to avoid. Like, here, they are awesome, they're awesome, it wasn't all me. And Kompany, in a press conference a few weeks ago, compared Olise to Kevin De Bruyne because Kompany played with De Bruyne at sea. So he's just like, giving compliments to everybody. And and this is now the coach's eye moment, maybe. It's not a throwaway comparison. It's a coaching move. A company is telling a 23-year-old publicly on the record, I know what great looks like, I played with it, and I see it in you. That's an act of investment. That's great. Yeah, you don't make that comparison casually. You make it because you want the player to hear it, take it seriously, and chase it. And I think that's what makes Kompany such a good coach. And you also accept the risk that comes with being wrong because you believe in the player enough to make the bet public. And that's what good coaching looks like. And I hate to admit that this is happening in Bayern. It really does not sit right with me. But it's just great to see Kompany doing all the right things. So the actual point for today's episode, if you will. 2 dressing rooms, 1 week. Real Bayern. Real Madrid. Structure imposed top down through shame. The owner is the voice. The manager is a bystander. The best young player has to be physically removed from the room so he doesn't get damaged by his own institution. The stars blame the referee, blame the fixture list, blame the atmosphere. The referee's IG probably bears the cost. Bayern Munich. Structure built bottom up through trust. The coach is the voice. The owner, and I can't believe to say this, the owner slash president, invisible, kinda, pops up here and there sometimes. Uli Hoeneß hasn't been in the news for a long time. The best player spends press conferences deflecting credit. The coach spends press conferences investing credit. The whole thing just compounds. Yeah, both approaches can win things. Both have won things, but only one of them produces a team that's genuinely nice to watch, and only one of them is going to be sustainable in 10 years when the next manager gets the job. The other one requires a new president every cycle and a lot of expensive mid-career strikes, which, fair enough, is a business model. It's just not a coaching model. As a coach, I know which dressing room I'd rather work in. As a fan, I know which one I'd rather watch. And as a guy who's been paying attention to football for a long time, I know which one's going to be in a better place in 5 years. It's not the one where the president delivers the motivational speech. All right, football done. Quick detour, because we talked about likable and unlikable before. Quick detour. Um, to fight sport, because I live in Bangkok, and this week delivered a story that is somehow running the exact same play as Real Madrid, just with lawsuits, multiple lawsuits in multiple jurisdictions. So, welcome to the view from Bangkok. And here we see one championship is suing Rodtang. For the non-fight sport people, Rodtang, Rodtang is the biggest Muay Thai star in the world. Thai flyweight, famous for walking forward through punches while smiling, as if getting hit in the face is something that happens to other people. One championship is the Singapore-based promotion that built a, I think, significant chunk of its international profile on Rodtang, because everyone loves Rodtang. Their CEO, Chatri Sityodtong, has called Rodtang one of the biggest stars. And in February, Rodtang posted a photo on IG of himself hugging Chatri. Captions about brotherhood, the future, all of that. Very heartwarming, very February. Fast forward this week, one has filed lawsuits against Rodtang in Singapore, Japan, and Thailand, which impressively is 3 countries and a more ambitious legal strategy than most Fortune 500 companies, to be honest. 2 weeks, and at all, like just 2 weeks. Now it's just 1 week before Rodtang is supposed to headline their biggest event of the year against Japanese legend Takeru in Tokyo. So, short version. Rodtang says his contract is expired. One says it didn't. There's a 12-month matching period. Rodtang went on Facebook and alleged that someone, unspecified, had forged his signature on more than 30 contracts. Not one, 30. He claims his lawyer got a confession. One responded by suing for breach of contract and defamation. Today, one has confirmed that the Takeru fight is still on. It's on April 29th, so it's like 12 days from day of recording, and it's going to be Rodtang's final fight in the promotion. They're parting ways. Rodtang's response on social media, quote, I signed the contract in 2022. I asked to see the contract and only received it in November 2025. I can't even read English, and now they're going to sue me. Does fairness really still exist? And they said we were like brothers. Now, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a coach. I genuinely do not know who's right in this dispute. Maybe Rodtang did breach the contract, maybe one is within its rights, maybe the signatures were forged, and maybe they weren't. Those are questions for courts in 3 countries, which is apparently where we are now. But I do know what it looks like when an organization loses a star, and this looks exactly like that. When the MVP, the most valuable person in your organization, ends a statement with, and they said we were like brothers, you can ignore the legal question entirely because the relationship is done. It doesn't matter who's technically correct. In fight sports, like in football, the talent is the product. Rodtang is the Muay Thai division in terms of profile. If he walks, and he's walking, one has a structurally smaller business on May 1st than they had on April 1st. Yeah, same week, same coaching questions, Bayern and Madrid. How does the organization treat the people who make it valuable? Bayern invests in Ulis, publicly compares him to De Bruyne, builds a system around the player. Real shouts at its players, ushers the 20-year-old out before the shouting starts. Won championship, sues its biggest Thai star in 3 countries 2 weeks before the biggest fight of the year. One of these organizations is in a very different place in 5 years than the other two. I'll let you guess which. And just, a Bangkok footnote, Rodtang isn't just an athlete here. Muay Thai is, civic identity in Thailand. And in a way that's generally hard to explain if you haven't lived in it. But watching a, local Singapore-based promotion, but they moved headquarters to Bangkok now, so actually it's Bangkok-based promotion, suing the biggest Thai star in the sport from Bangkok 2 weeks before his fight is like a specific kind of tone deaf, and you're like wondering, like, you're a Thai company, why? So I don't know how one recovers from it locally. They might not need to. Their business is international, sure, but in Thailand, this is going to be remembered. And they have weekly fights here every Friday from Lumpini Stadium. So I do wonder how they plan on mending fences with the fans here. All right, now one last thing before we wrap, right? We're calling it the volleyball corner. I'm gonna find a better name for this. But today is more of a volleyball complaint, a volleyball rant, because, well, it's my first episode of TAKTIK here, so I have to let it out. The FIVB, right, the International Volleyball Federation, which is like FIFA, but with less corruption and more ceiling issues. Less non-corruption, but way more ceiling issues, has just announced the rule changes they're testing in the Volleyball Nations League, where, national teams are playing each other. And some of them are good, and some of them are technically the stupidest thing I have heard in a decade of 2 decades, almost 3 decades of coaching the sport. So ta-da, the volleyball corner. Let me read you the list. These are real, I'm not making them up, okay? The ceiling rule. Quote from the FIVB's own announcement. If the first or second ball contacts venue infrastructure above the field of play and remains playable on the same side of the court, the rally will continue. Let me translate that. If you pass the ball badly and it hits the ceiling on your side of the court, you get to keep playing. Just keep going, like it didn't happen, like you're in a rec league in Wisconsin or Bangkok for that matter. I have coached volleyball for 20 years. I've played volleyball in buildings with good ceilings, bad ceilings, ceilings with speakers dangling from them, ceilings in Thailand with humidity made the ball come back down heavier than it went up. At no point in any of that did I think, you know what this sport needs? More rallies where someone junks a pass into the roof and we pretend it's still in play. This is a rule from I don't know, college volleyball, where I think they can hit the ball against walls and whatever. It's not real volleyball. No one cares. I'm kidding. Kinda. I mean, and it works there because they have ceilings for it. And American college volleyball still, it's volleyball adjacent and it's good for what it is. But let's stick with real volleyball, okay? Bringing the ceiling rule into an international volleyball is like asking the NBA to adopt the 3-second lane from FIBA. You can do it, but you're importing someone else's compromise. And here is the part that actually matters. The ceiling rule rewards bad technique. A ball hit into the ceiling is a bad pass. And I mean, how bad does it have to be on international level to hit the ceiling? The ceilings are so high. It's a failure. You missed your platform, you didn't read the serve, whatever, but it's so high anyways. But now, of course, because it doesn't matter on international level, but now it's the rule, so now on local level, we're all going to be like, yeah, I can hit the ceiling, and now all passes are all going to go to shit because you don't have to pass perfectly anymore, pass well anymore. So we're making everything more forgiving. Why? Why? To have more random rallies? Great, fantastic. Can't wait. Yes, old man yelling at the cloud. Real loud. Okay, then they call it a palonetto ban. For non-volleyball people, palonetto is a soft open hand touch. Okay, you can smash the ball because the block is set, so your finger tip it over into the open space. It's a skill move. Requires touch, timing, and reading the defense. Yeah, elite volleyball is full of them. They're beautiful. FIVB decided to ban them. Only what they call like a very short contact tip will be allowed. No open hand touches, no soft placements. If you can smash it, you can flick it, and that's it. So we're banning a skill move that rewards technique and court vision and replacing it with what? Harder attempts to smash a ball through a wall set block, longer rallies of the ball bouncing off hands, fewer tactical options for the attacker. I generally can't figure out who this helps. Blockers, defenders, viewers who hate creativity? Yeah, then we have the out of rotation rule. This one, honestly, I don't mind. Receiving a team has to be in rotational order at the whistle, but can move once the serve is in motion. That's basically how it was already being called. Fine, move on, right? So officially, you can now move as soon as the server starts the serving motion, not when they hit the ball. Yeah, fine, no problem with that. We've all been cheating on that anyways. The bookmark challenge system. Now, coaches mark moments on a tablet during a rally. Then after the rally, pick one to challenge. Kind of smart, speed things up, remove the mid-rally challenge. I'll take it. I guess let's see how it actually goes, okay? Too good, too stupid so far. Net score from a coach's perspective, we're worse off. The bigger picture though, right? The FIVB is trying to make volleyball more TV friendly, longer rallies, fewer stoppages, more continuous action. I understand the commercial logic, sure. Volleyball is the most played team sport in the world and nowhere near the most watched, and that gap is a business problem. I get it. But you don't solve it by making elite volleyball look more like rec volleyball. You solve it by producing the sport better. More cameras, better commentary, more storytelling around athletes, and more accessible streaming. Hello, volleyball world. The quality of the game is not the reason nobody watches volleyball. The production is. And the FIVB is fixing the wrong problem. I mean, I'll be watching VNL this summer, maybe on highlights, not on Volleyball World, because I canceled because it's the worst streaming platform imaginable. So I'm gonna be watching probably with a low-grade headache. If the ceiling rule is gonna come into play in the VNL, I don't think so, of course, but I'd still stick to my guns and say it's gonna make club volleyball worse and high school and uni volleyball worse. But let's see if we will see like entertaining rallies instead of like coded garbage. If that happens, I'll admit I was wrong. Write it down. So that was the first tactic. 4 stories, one theme if you squint. Bayern invests in its people, Real Madrid shouts at them, won championship sues them. The FIVB is trying to make sure there's a ceiling rule for when they all chunk it. We live in interesting times. Next week, we look into more Champions League. We look into Bundesliga, of course. Defenders of Europe, I believe in you. Defense is still something worth trying. If this one was worth your time, subscribe wherever you're listening to it. If it wasn't, also subscribe. I'll check the number either way. I'm a coach. I understand KPI, so don't forget to subscribe. Share it with a football fan, a person who's not a football fan, a volleyball fan, a soon-to-be volleyball fan. Because the test for this show is whether both of those worlds, fans and non-fans, get something out of it. If the second person didn't, that's on me, and then I want to know. Tactic, back next week. Thanks for listening.